Sean Claggett, welcome to the Brutal Honesty Podcast. It's great to have you, brother.
It's awesome to be on your podcast. It's taken a while to get here, but man, I'm glad we're here in sunny LA.
I know, it is beautiful. It's supposed to be a record week for heat.
Yeah, climate's changing quite a bit. So
how have you been doing?
Awesome. Been just got done with a trial, which was a fun trial to do, and got a great result out in Provo, Utah.
A great result?
Yeah.
A great, you mean an unprecedented result? Something that's never happened before in the history of the world in that zone, in that area, in a jurisdiction like that?
Yeah, we the old record in Utah was $25 million for a jury verdict.
And what was that case?
That was a strangulation of a child with blinds, like a product defect.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this case was something different?
This was a right-hand turn with a child in a crosswalk. This case was tried 4 years ago and lost by the plaintiff lawyer, who
I remember that, and that's what I mean. Yeah, you took a defense verdict,
right,
and you turned that defense verdict into a verdict of more than $80 million,
right, and zero contrib on our child, which for the family, that was more important than the money.
Yeah,
the jury, because to know that it wasn't their fault, their guilt, that the prior jury that defends them, there's a lot of guilt a parent would have about that, even though they know they did the right thing. And then this was like vindication where,
sure.
and it was interesting because after the verdict came in, the defense attorney comes in and they're talking to the jurors afterwards. And they're like, oh, we don't understand. How do you not blame the child? The child ran.
Right.
And they're like, well, we followed the instructions and judged an 11-year-old the way that 11-year-olds should be judged. And that 11-year-old waited, hit the button, waited for it to turn walk. And then when it turned walk, he waited a few seconds and then he entered the roadway, whether he walks or runs.
In the crosswalk.
In the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Whether, no, that's his right.
But as parents, if our kids do something, right, that they weren't supposed to do, if our kids are negligent, we blame ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right. We think I didn't teach them good enough. I didn't spend enough time. It just, layers on, on top of that. It's an awful, awful thing to have something bad happen to a child and then have a jury come back and say it was your kid's fault, which is saying you weren't a good parent.
Yeah. And, I tried a right-hand turn case with a little girl who was killed about 4 years ago or so, coming out of COVID, and the jury blamed my little girl 27%. And it's always bothered me. And so getting a second opportunity to try a very similar case and having the jury understand and having learned from my own mistakes that I made in the first trial, sure. Things that maybe I should have done a little differently, I did a much better job in this trial.
Right. But the first defense verdict, was that you?
Mm-mm.
Right. You're talking about
the different case.
You're talking about the case where there was 27% against, found against a little girl.
Right. Yeah. So two separate cases.
What did you learn from that? Because I learned so much from my losses or the results that everyone else might consider a win. But I look at it and say, to me, that was a loss.
Yeah. I think that was so a couple things happened in that case. It was COVID, so everybody was masked up. Really hard to pick a jury. You can't see their faces.
Sure.
And we made Jordan Logan is a phenomenal trial lawyer, and he told me to strike a juror, and I didn't. He was right, and she wanted a defense verdict on that case. She was going to blame the child completely. And so there ended up being some give and take. But what I learned is in jury selection, you really got to hammer on the idea that there's a difference between a child and an adult.
Sure.
Right. In the way that, are you able to judge? In this case, you're going to be asked to judge the conduct of a child. And the law says you have to judge them as a child, not compared to an adult. So we really talked about that a lot. And, we got ahead of that. And then we also got ahead of the Mormon religion, which was I had so much fun because my Mormon colleagues at my office, David Creasy and Micah Eccles, spent so much time with me, educating me about their religion and really getting to understand the Mormon, the religion, the culture, and things that matter, and being able to talk to the folks in jury selection with their belief system intact.
Hmm.
And one of the things that we did is that there's a portion of the Book of Mormon where they talk about that mercy cannot rob justice.
Wow.
So the idea being you can give mercy, but justice still has to be done. So when somebody does something wrong, there must be justice, even if you want to give mercy by forgiving the person.
And you use that
in voir dire. Yeah.
voir dire.
It drove the defense nuts. They're like, he's making this religious. And it's like, the judge is like, well, I think that where we are, that's a fair question, don't you?
Yeah.
The judge was great. Judge Lowe. He was really worried, you know, out of town attorney coming in. And he gave the nicest compliment at the end of the trial to me, saying that I was really worried about out of town attorney coming into my courtroom.
From Las Vegas, right?
He goes, you were the most prepared. That was the best presentation I've seen in a trial. And I really appreciate being prepared and respecting the court. And it was kind of interesting because, you know, growing up in the reptile Don Keenan world, one of the Blake really believed, because this is what he was taught since he was a brand new lawyer, was bring your toothbrush to court because you've got to be combative with the judge.
No. I thought that too early on, and I was combative. And you know what? It didn't get me anywhere.
It never does, even as bad as it is. And look, I've had the worst judge on the planet in a trial in Vegas. I mean, the worst. It was the worst experience of my life. After 6 weeks of trial, thank God we still got a $47 million verdict on that case so that people don't think I'm just bitching about a bad judge. Like, but she was terrible. She was horrible. And
is her last name Murphy?
No.
Okay.
Barisic is her name.
They might be cousins.
Yeah, they're probably related. It was such a bad experience that it really, it makes me respect judges that are good so much more.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, it makes such a difference. And Judge Lowe, you know, we didn't get everything we wanted. You know, he ruled against us a fair number of times. But he was doing what he felt was right. And you could tell. He was doing what he felt was the right thing.
He wasn't a defense lawyer in a robe. He wasn't a plaintiff lawyer in a robe. He was just calling balls and strikes.
He was a phenomenal judge. And I'll tell you, I've had a judge up in Oregon was phenomenal. I've really been lucky. I feel like a lot of the judges I get to appear in front of have been really top notch. But I think it all goes to being prepared, being respectful, and understanding they've got a job to do too.
And not taking it personally. If they do rule against you, pivot. You know, move on to something else.
That's right. And
rather than sitting there steaming, which as younger lawyers, I think that happened to me. If something didn't go my way and I felt that it should, I'd take it personal. That judge is out to get me. He's being unfair. And that would then fuel my fire, right? And fear, really, that this judge is going to do everything that he or she possibly can, you know, to screw me, to screw my case, to screw my client, to take away the verdict if I do win. And once you start telling yourself those stories, it really prevents you from having any connection with that judge moving forward. And you're going to lose on things that you otherwise might win on because your judgment is now clouded by fear and anger.
Right. Yeah. And it was really good for Blake Johnson, who was my referring attorney. He's the one who tried it the first time. Did a great job getting the case reversed and coming back.
Yeah.
And
was it the same judge?
Same judge.
Wow. Mm-hmm. What was how'd it get reversed?
So,
I mean, this is a defense verdict in one of the most conservative places in this country to then turn into an $80 million 100% negligence against the defendant record-setting verdict is...
Yeah, top offer, by the way, was $1 million.
Wow.
$1 million.
But that's... How does that happen? Like, why was there a defense verdict? What were the rulings? What did the Court of Appeal, grab onto to send the case back, right?
So the first trial got bifurcated by the judge. The defense convinced the judge to bifurcate the negligence of the driver before anything else would come in about the company and hiring him and his... So what they did is they totally lied to the jury about how good this guy was and he was safe and he was qualified. None of that was true. You know,
Right.
so this guy had a horrific drive, and the judge didn't allow any of that evidence in. So it got really slanted. And then the defense theory was sometimes bad things happen and it's nobody's fault. We're not blaming the child, but accidents happen.
Accidents happen.
Accidents happen. And that's how they won. The judge was so distraught by how his ruling of bifurcating was abused and misused by the defense that the judge granted a new trial, a JNOV.
Okay.
He actually directed verdict in favor or against the driver, saying you actually were negligent as a matter of law, that no reasonable jury could have got this wrong because it was 1%. You needed to get 1% on him.
Right.
And they put 100% on the child.
And then the defense appealed it.
The defense then appeals the judge's ruling. The Court of Appeals affirms the judge. So when we came back this time, we had a starting point that the driver is negligent and was a cause of the death. Okay, so that's the starting point.
Does the burden then shift to the defense?
Well, now so we had a cause of action against the employer for negligently hiring, training, supervising the driver. And they had an affirmative defense of comparative negligence against our child for running. I mean, there's video of it. I mean, he runs out into the crosswalk. But I thought that was a silly argument by the defense that the child ran. And I'm like, well, they had an expert that I just
Annihilated. Annihilated. It's on CVN.
You got to watch it. It is, there's those examinations where you just tear somebody from one limb to the other and just shred them.
And name of the case, so we can look it up on CVN.com and the name of the witness so we can watch the cross.
So the case is Matson v. Allied Building Services.
Spell it.
Madsen.
Okay.
Matson. And the expert was Nordhagen, Ron Nordhagen. He was a accident reconstructionist. And I started out by getting him to agree that ACTAR has a code of ethics. And we went through it.
ACTAR is his company?
ACTAR is the accident reconstruction organization.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
that he touts. He's
that's
probably
right. He's very proud of that.
Oh yeah.
And I said, great. And so you agree that being a member requires you to be honest, ethical, neutral, impartial.
Oh boy, here it comes. Okay.
And then I just use the negative space of everything that he willfully leaves out. Like everything that would be helpful to my client side, he left out. And like, for example, the defendant lied to the cops and said that he came to a complete stop at the red light.
And this guy used that as a basis for his opinion.
No, he left that completely out. He left it out. And he was like, well, I had the video, so I didn't have to rely on that. I go, well, but you relied on him saying that he was scanning.
Right.
So which one, which
So he did lie to the cops.
He lied to the cops. And this guy, he lied on his application for hiring. This guy, it was just a liar. He lied.
But you're trusting that he was scanning.
Right. And the one thing that helps you, you're going to say that he was doing because he said it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And I'm like, so how do you determine which statement of this guy to accept as true?
What did he say?
What process did you go through? And what does he say to that, right? I mean, it's such a vicious question. He's like, what?
That's what I call a double or triple-edged sword question.
Oh.
No matter how they sit on it, they're getting cut.
So yeah, we beat him up bad. But he was on the stand, and I said, I got to ask you a question, man. I go, you're critical of the child running into the crosswalk, but I've been here in Provo now for 3 weeks. And I am astonished at the number of joggers.
That's what I was thinking. What do joggers do?
I'm like, there are joggers. It's free. Dude, if you've never been to Provo, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. It is, it's hard. You can't even describe how beautiful Provo is. It is so pretty there, but it's cold. And these people are running, it's like 30 degrees and snowing. They're out there running in shorts and t-shirts. And I'm like, you guys are nuts. But they're everywhere. And so I said, let me ask you something. You ever seen a jogger hit the button, and then jog in place, and I'm doing this, and they're jogging in place, and then it turns to walk, and then they run? Is it fair to run them over?
Right.
And he's like, well, no.
Did the jurors get to ask questions in this trial?
Oh, yeah, dude. Their questions were hysterical.
But what's one of them?
Do you have memory problems?
Oh, no. To the expert? Or to the defendant?
To some of the witnesses.
Some of the witnesses? Really?
Yeah. They asked the defendant driver if he was autistic or special needs. Mm-hmm. He's like, no. They're like, oh, you're just an idiot.
You're just a village idiot, right?
This guy showed up, right, every day to court in a red Corvette with his name on the back on the license plate.
No.
Yes, he did.
No.
And in front of the jury. The jury got to see this guy driving. This guy's he had 3 convictions for speeding over 94 miles an hour, 1 for speeding over 106 while he was employed by the company.
106?
106 miles an hour.
And they still kept him on the road.
They had no problem with that. He had in his driving background a reckless driving, and he had a suspended license.
Wow.
And this guy, and they're like, well, that's fine. It's fine. And there was a nepotism issue because his brother-in-laws who hired him. And throughout the trial, we're making a big deal about this. And they're like, well, what's the conflict? What's the conflict? We don't see a conflict. And like this company is massive, right? So Allied sold to Beacon. So you'll see Allied and Beacon as defendants because they sold during the pendency of the litigation. Beacon is owned by a company called Oldcastle, and Oldcastle is owned by a company in Ireland. And the nepotism policy says you need to disclose any familial relationships within the company, and the only person that has authority to say it's okay is the vice president of finance for the company in Ireland.
They weren't letting that guy know about this.
They didn't run that up at all, and they lied about it. They put, do you have anybody in the company that's related to you? None. Nope. And like these type of lies, right? And the defense didn't understand, like,
those are piss off points.
It was really fascinating that the defense literally had no clue why this verdict happened. They didn't see it coming.
Isn't that? It's the worst, but it's also the best. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, how many big verdicts have we won over the years? Have great trial lawyers won where the defense just they don't see it? They're blind. They're blinded by ignorance, blinded by bias. They just don't get it. It's the worst because if they were to see what we see, or at least some of what we see, then they would report that to their to their client, to the carrier, and maybe we wouldn't have to go through a jury trial to get full justice for our clients, right? So that's the worst. And there are so many people out there in this country that don't get a great trial lawyer. So they don't see justice, or they end up with the defense verdict like this, and that's it. That's the end. That's the end. But it's also great because that's what gives us our purpose, is to, hold these people, by the scruff of their neck and open their eyes and make them see.
Yeah,
through the verdict.
The defense lawyer is there was 2, right? So I dealt with Jim Gordon, represented Beacon and Allied, and Jim's out of Ohio. Very sharp attorney.
They brought in a big national counsel guy.
Yeah, he was Jim's
Was he in before?
No, he got brought in when
you got brought in. Yeah.
And so Jim is he's formidable.
And what I've found, I want the best trial lawyers on the defense side to go up against us. That's who I want. I don't want to fight a drunk midget.
Right.
I want to get in the ring with somebody who I can trade some punches with, and I also think that drives up the verdict.
Well, it does, and in his situation, Jim is very experienced trucking defense lawyer. And he gets up there and just says, look, Lou Grill, who is our expert, he says that my guy was qualified, incompetent. Like, yeah, he was. That's what makes it what he did so bad, because he knew right from wrong.
Right.
And that's what was Lou's point. Mm-hmm. He's like, this isn't a situation where the guy didn't have a CDL. And
right.
No, he had everything. But what they were arguing for is that because the guy had a CDL that hadn't been taken by the federal government, that he should be given a pass. And, you know, we didn't get to tell the jury this directly. And I really wanted to. But this dude killed my little boy, and 5 days later, he's driving the same route.
What?
5 days later.
Did you ever heard about this?
No.
They didn't.
Wow. This verdict would have been way higher if they would have heard that. We wanted punitive damages, and the judge, this was one of those things the judge didn't go with us on, you know? I think the judge was right, actually, not allowing punitive. We tried to, the judge, I think, was torn. Like, he didn't out of hand reject our motion to have the case conform to the evidence, because we said, Judge, you've now heard how bad this was. This is punitive. And he thought about it. He took the night to think about it. So it wasn't like if I was the defense, I'd be so scared that we were going to get punitive.
Oh, I'd be settling that case.
But it was the other defense lawyer is a local Salt Lake attorney named Ruth Shapiro. And Ruth is, she is not a nice person. Their expert, Nordhagen, gets up there and he brings his notebook with him. And before he can even say his name in response to her question, I object because he opened the binder. Mm-hmm. And I said, Your Honor, I'm objecting. He's just got a binder up there. I at a bare minimum, should be able to see what he's looking at. So she said, yeah, come up and look at it, Mr. Claggett. So we go up. Oh, look at that. And then she objects. Work product. It was all
what,
dude. She had sent him all the questions, and they had gone and filled the answers out together.
No.
So
oh my.
And the
Lord.
judge is like, well, if you've got work product in there, Miss Shapiro, I guess you probably shouldn't have your expert having it up there unless you want Mr. Claggett to get into it with him. She goes, okay, I'll take the binder. Well, he was done. He was done. But so
he had memory problems.
So we took a break before I got across him.
Yeah.
And I said to her, hey, you know, the good news is at least your expert was going to be lockstep with you, right? And she looks at me and she goes, oh, please. Your mother, the mom who had just testified, she goes, that was so scripted. And I'm like, you are disgusting to think that we would have to script anything for a mother to talk about their dead child and be emotional. Give me a break. You're gross. And I told her, I said, you're a terrible person.
And there are so many of them out there that
I feel
the defense verdict over decades have just darkened their souls.
Yeah, I actually feel bad for her that she's that jaded, that she would believe that, because she does believe it. Like she believes it, and it's sad.
They are bad people. I truly believe that there are some that are very bad people. Listen, this isn't criminal defense, right? Where you're defending your client and making sure that their constitutional rights are protected, and making sure that the prosecution is ethical and not overzealous, and that if they're going to prosecute and get a conviction, that they're going to do it in a way that's ethical and not in violation of your client's constitutional rights. You could defend a serial killer and still do your job as a criminal defense attorney. But when you're doing civil defense, it's different. You do have a choice. You have a choice.
Well, and they had a choice here. It was so bizarre. I have no idea. Like, she put on the same exact case that she did the first trial. And she got up and told the jury in closing, this case has nothing to do about speed. And I'm like, there was an instruction with the court's finding as a matter of law why the defendant was negligent, and it was all about his speed. He was going too fast. He didn't give himself enough time to be able to perceive everything that was there. And I'm like, I told the jury, I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't even know what to make of this or do with it, but you get to do something with this.
Yeah.
I mean, how they can sit here 7 years later and still be telling you the speed had nothing to do with this, when in fact it's already been determined that speed had everything to do with this.
There's
It's
something
bizarre.
else about this verdict that's really unique. Is you had bystander claims. This young man had friends who were there with him.
Oh yeah.
And his friends didn't get hit. They didn't step out the way that he did, which was a tough fact.
Yeah,
Tell us about that and about their claim and how the jury compensated them.
So we broke it up. So Blake Johnson represented the two boys because it was important. That was a big mistake the first time as well. You got to break up if you got multiple plaintiffs like this, you can't have one lawyer representing everybody. It doesn't
Bring
look
someone
right.
else and split up the fees. Who cares?
Who cares? It doesn't matter. And so we did that. And Blake, so Blake did an awesome job in this trial. I mean, he really was it was such a pleasure to work with him. I've known Blake for a long time.
Yeah, he's great.
And it was great to see him really shine. And so the two boys were about 15 feet behind Michael, was my client. And when the walk symbol turned to walk, they all started running at the same time.
Okay.
And so the 15-foot difference, though, was the difference between life and death that night. And so those boys had to stop immediately because that truck came about 5 feet from them, the back tire that ran
like
Michael.
as far as we are from each other.
The one boy felt the wind of the truck. And the defense, they have this zone of danger. Mm-hmm. And the instruction was, they had to be in actual physical peril. And the jury said, yeah, they were actually in physical. They were within 5 feet of dying.
Yeah.
If they would have been 1 second, that's literally what we're talking about here. 1 second, that driver would have killed three boys that night.
What was the verdict for each of them?
$7.5 million each.
Wow.
Yeah. And
watching there.
I don't think that was
There were three of them?
Two.
Two of them.
What those boys went through was just awful. Because the way that my client was killed, it was a grotesque death. It was just awful.
Did they go to him?
They didn't go to him, but like the head got smashed and the brain, literally all of his brain matter was on the side of his body.
That will impact.
They can't get that
forever.
They can't get it out of their head.
That's a trigger. That's a cause for PTSD.
Oh, they've got PTSD bad. The one boy has tried to commit suicide, multiple times. The other boy is just, he can't even, and then the notes, I mean, it was really interesting because the treatment notes, the boy who didn't try to commit suicide basically said, I'm fine. I don't even think about it. And he told the therapist that. He's like, the last place on the planet I want to be is here talking about this.
Yeah.
And I'll sell you anything to get you to just leave me alone. Well, you put him on the stand. He's broken. Just broken. It's so sad. These boys are 18, 19 years old now.
Did you put him on the stand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The jurors saw that.
They had to see it. Because if you just had the notes, it would seem like nothing happened to him. When the reality was, this completely broke him.
The one thing I've seen in you is how much you care about the clients and how much you care about justice. Justice in the individual cases, justice, social justice, justice for all. But the fight that you have in you, when you care about something or care about someone is really unstoppable. What was special about these people, about these parents, about this boy?
I think what makes trial lawyers, really good, the really good ones, is you've had really bad trauma probably in your own life.
Yeah.
My best friend was killed a block from my house when I was a freshman in college. My two best friends were killed my senior year and then freshman year of college. And her body was on the road. And she was dead. And my mom heard the wreck and came out and saw my friends laying in the roadway, badly hurt or dead. And I think that just this image of this little boy, and the pain is, it never goes away. Like a parent, if you have kids, it is so awful to think about losing a child. And it's been my biggest fear of my entire life is something will happen to one of my kids. Because I've had so much trauma in my own life with so many of my friends dying. But specifically, Melissa was my friend who died. And it's hard to get that image out. Even though I wasn't there, I know because I just couldn't see it, the way that I was told by my mom. And, it's interesting. After the trial,
a block from your house. So every time you drive past that spot,
there's 2 trees that got planted there for the 2 people that died that night. And those trees are quite big now, but it's really sad. To this day. I mean, it took me until I was in my 40s to get therapy on that. And I think that a big thanks to Rick Friedman for doing Ethos, right? That's where I did it. I didn't even, I went out to this conference that Rick Friedman had. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what it was. I had my laptop out, I'm ready to take notes. I'm going to learn something from Rick. He's like, you can put that away, Sean. You won't need that where we're going. And I'm like, what? And then I learned all about psychodrama.
Sure.
And the first year I went there, I'm like, I am not talking about this.
Yeah.
And then I went the following year, and my best friend Lucas Solomon, he was like blowing my phone up. Like it was weird. And I'm like, dude, and you're not supposed to have your phone on, you're supposed to be really focused on what we're doing. But at lunch, I'm like, I'd missed like 10 calls from him. I knew something was wrong. And there was a school shooting in like the Valencia area. And his other really good friend's daughter was killed. Oh. And it triggered, like it literally, that you talk about a trigger. I was just in a really bad spot. And Rick's wife, Kirsten, I was in her group, and I went right in and did a whole full-blown deal for myself on that, dealing with my friend Melissa's death. And I was in a really raw emotion already because my friend was just distraught. There's nothing I can do, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think so. I tell this long-winded story here about the connection with the family. When the trial ended, I had left. I didn't take the verdict. I think we talked about I'm not a big fan of taking verdicts. So,
no. There's nothing we can do at that point.
Right. We've done our job. It's,
Let someone else have that excitement or disappointment.
Yes.
Right.
So I FaceTimed my team and the clients after the verdict. And I was just sad because I'd done everything I could for them, but their son was still dead.
Yeah.
And,
what are they, if the defense wins, they're toasting champagne glasses. When we win, we're not.
No, I mean, it was, it's weird. The verdicts, a lot of people are like, oh, I bet you were just like celebrating. And like, I'm like, no, I wasn't. I did my job. Yeah. I was sad because the verdict is, it's just hard. It's just emotionally hard for me because you get really invested and then it's over and then that's just kind of the end. And it's the end, because you've got another job to go do. And they still don't have their son. And, but hopefully, with the money, they'll be able to spend more time with the kids and have better lives, and their kids will have the ability to go to any university they want to, just better life.
Help their community do so
charitable work
that we, can do with money. It's a great tool if it's used the right way.
Yeah. So this one was emotional. Anytime I do kid cases, man, it's just like, that is my absolute like weak spot. And to see the defense blame a child, like
Callously.
really go. It's so gross. And they did not appreciate that the jury thought it was gross too. And the judge even kind of like foreshadowed it because they didn't want me to be able to say that they were blaming the child. And the judge is like, but you are.
Right.
You are blaming him. And the judge is like, actually, your defense could be viewed by some people as offensive that you're blaming a child in this scenario. But you have the right to do it.
Didn't listen to the judge.
No.
What would have? Well, first, I try to avoid taking jury verdicts now. It's such a big emotional event for me because I'm so invested in the case that I'm trying that I can become hysterical as a verdict is read. I've been there holding my client's hands and the verdicts are read, and I'm unable to speak to the judge or the jurors because it's just, it's been building up.
Yeah.
And if I'm not there, then I can take the verdict without that emotion overtaking me. So it's, I guess I haven't really told many people that. That's why I don't like to take verdicts because I can absolutely lose it. I'm so emotionally invested.
When I did that trial in New Mexico for the sex abuse case, when that jury came back, I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
I had worked that case for 6 years. 485
million. Yeah.
And I hugged every juror. We all cried. Every one of us were crying. And it was like you said, I mean, that emotion builds up, man. And you're because we're professionals, we have to put that aside and do our job. But at the end of trials, man, gosh, that emotional release.
Right. It's all done. And now we're human beings.
Yeah.
How did the verdict break down?
$33 million to each parent, $0 contributory towards the child, and $7.5 million to each of the friends that saw it. So
you beat your data.
Crushed it.
Yeah. Tell us what the data was.
So I really do base my decisions on kind of the average outcome that the data tells me that we're going to see. My thought on that is that when you're making decisions to settle a case, even post-verdict, right? I mean, there's all kinds of risk. And in this particular case, there's a lot of risk because the largest verdict in the history of the state was $25 million. I just went 300.
Oh, in the state?
In the state.
Oh, I thought this was just Provo.
No, the whole state of Utah.
The whole state.
Yeah.
Wow, you more than tripled that.
That's right. And so you don't want to be taking that case up on appeal.
Right.
That to me is a huge risk. And this case already been going for 7 years, 2 months, and 24 days.
And is the case resolved now?
It is.
In a very good way, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, we did a high-low, and I made the high basically what our data said was going to be the average, plus I build in about 20% above that. And so it's going to end up being like $40 million. And so that we did on the high-low, and that was the high. We had 12 as the floor.
But the data told you were going to get 2025 in total.
Well, for each parent, about 12.7.
Okay.
Didn't see 33 million coming. I mean, not even on our best day. Something I learned from you that I didn't understand it or appreciate it because I used to be really firm on a number, telling the jury this is the number.
Yeah.
And I've gotten away from that the last few trials, and it's been beautiful because I give them a low and a high, and I'm like, look, we feel that their conduct is the high number. We also understand that there's going to be maybe some reasonable debate, and there could be another number. So we told them 25 to 50 million per parent. I said, talk about between those ranges, anywhere between that would be fair. We feel that it's a little bit closer to the 50, right? And so the jury literally came in, and I don't know if they did this or not, but the defense suggested 8.
In total, right?
Total to both parents.
Right.
Yeah.
4 each.
Yeah, 4 each.
And what? Nothing to the other kids, right?
Yeah, defense verdict. Well, they asked for a defense verdict all straight up because they said the little boy was more than 50% responsible.
Right.
And then the other boys, they said, weren't in the zone of danger, so they should get 0.
Yeah. Did they suggest numbers for the boys?
They did. $750,000 to the one who attempted suicide a couple times, and $500,000 to the other one. So yeah, that was the data. So the data. I was really worried that we were going to lose the bystander claim. I really thought there was a good chance that we could lose that.
How about at the time of closing argument?
I still thought so.
Yeah, I remember we talked, we communicated.
Yeah,
I told you this was going to be huge.
yeah. But the bystander claim, because it's really hard. I mean, and then you certainly don't want that going on appeal.
Right. But what you've done by locking in the high-low is you have now set a precedent that when the next verdict comes in that's big in Utah and they appeal it and say it's unreasonable, they can look back to this one that has been untouched.
That's right.
It actually, what you've done by taking away the risk of having it reduced on appeal or changed on appeal is you have established what a bystander claim can be worth.
That's right.
You've established what a wrongful death case can be worth, and it gives them something to look to that will help the next trial lawyer, the next family who has to go through something like this.
Yeah, it was, when you make a high-low, you always feel kind of good when it's just maybe a little bit higher than the high. Not when you hit a, you get a verdict like this, but, think about the clients.
I've been there where I've locked in a high-low, and I've had it where it came in below the low.
Me too.
I've had a defense verdict and I had a high-low locked in, and I'm like, yes.
Yes,
but I've also had a high-low where the verdict was way beyond the high, and I'm sitting there kicking myself in the pants. But it was not in Utah in a situation like this, where your high is $15 million higher than anything that's ever
happened,
been affirmed in the state. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is, if we get the high, man, that's a great day.
Right.
Yeah. And now that, the families, they all get closure. Those two boys are going to be able to start their lives with, millions of dollars, to help them. And hopefully these boys are going to need to go get treatment. They're good, but they got to be ready for that too. That's going to be something down the road. We all will find a time.
Yeah. My PTSD didn't hit me until I was in my mid-20s. So all the stuff from childhood, all the stuff from the military, I was fine. I was resilient because I had no other choice but to, let that stuff, just bounce off me and, not let it break me. I had no choice. And then when I was in my mid-20s and I was able to breathe and say, whoa, I'm actually okay. I'm actually safe. I'm actually doing well in life. That's when it hit me. Like everything all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. It's heavy. PTSD is, if people don't understand PTSD, it is a awful, awful thing.
Changes the brain, changes you.
Changes the human.
Yeah.
They are not people that have real PTSD. After the exposure, they're a different human. That who they were before died. And there's a new person. And you got to figure that out, man. That's a heavy duty burden.
Well, I've done a lot of work with therapy and psychedelics, and that was a game changer for me. I don't drink alcohol, don't do drugs, but medicine done therapeutically, psychedelics done the right way with set and setting protocols in the right environment has been a game changer for me. I'd say it's saved me.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that the stigma of the psychedelics is wildly misplaced. As you know, I mean, we are obviously huge believers in as part of our lives, right? I mean,
our evolution.
And it's part of our journey and our health, our mental health. I try to do at least 4 walks a year where we go out and
hopefully we'll get one in next week.
Yeah. When Nick's saying the setting and the set intentions, it's really important. It's really important. It's also important to be with people that can help you, guide you, and talk you through your issues because, dealing with, in our world, we are so dishonest with how we're feeling. It's very American.
Yeah. Even with ourselves.
Yes. In America, how you doing? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah. Even if things are completely falling apart.
Yeah.
When you go to Spain and you ask people, well, how are you doing? They'll tell you. They'll be real honest. Oh man, got this issue. They're much more in touch with their emotions, and we don't do a very good job. And the one thing that I really enjoy is that when we go out and we have 4 hours of letting our guards down, being honest, being maybe honest I feel like you're the most honest you can be when we're on the walks, because your defenses are down.
Yeah, you're in the moment.
Yeah, you're present.
Everything
totally
else
present.
is shut off. No phones, no nothing.
Yeah,
it's great. Well, brother, that verdict is something that makes me so proud of you and your team in Jordan, and my heart goes out to the family.
Yeah,
and I have so much gratitude for that jury and that judge. I'm so proud of you. This is just another great thing that you've done.
Yeah, well, I'm real lucky. I have the best team. Shannon Wise was co-counseling with Jordan and I. Jordan, of course, is the best storyteller in America. I mean, hands down.
He's the Jordan of trial lawyers.
Yes, he is.
The Michael Jordan.
He literally is. Although it's GEO, Jordan.
Yeah.
George and Dan combined. So Jordan is anybody. It's funny because we do work days and people are like, oh, I want to work with Sean. I'm like, I'm not the one you want to work with. Jordan is the one you want to work with. And he is so talented. And then Shannon she showed in this trial why she's one of the best female trial lawyers in the country, hands down. She was so good. I mean, she handled a couple really tricky witnesses and was masterful. It was so fun to watch. She's been with me since she was a law student. And to get to watch her on the biggest stage she handled the mom for damages, and then she handled a couple eyewitnesses and another friend. I mean, huge moments in the trial. And
or you could hear a pin drop.
Oh gosh. And she was so talented. It was really neat to see. And then we had Micah Eccles and Charlie Finlinson. Charlie was lead appellate counsel for us.
Nice.
And so you have this team. Yeah. And then we had Brendan, our tech guy, there with us. And it just makes trial fun when you have that much talent, And so really thankful to the team, because it just made it easy. You and I get a lot of credit, but people obviously need to know that behind our success is an army of people working their ass off. I had a paralegal in the office, Allison. Oh my gosh. This was her first trial. Knocked it out of the park. Everything we ever needed. She'd be working till 3 a.m, getting stuff done, getting stuff ready. She was awesome, and this doesn't happen without an amazing team. We get a lot of the credit because we end up being lead counsel on these cases, but
it's the team behind us that lifts us up and gives us the opportunity to be in that spotlight.
That's right.
Yeah. And without them, we would not be there.
100%. So,
well, thanks for the brutal honesty, brother.
You bet. Thanks for having me.